woman, customer service departments trembled when she rang up to complain. If you wanted something returned, she was your woman. She did exercises every morning to keep mobile and strong right up until she died. If she didn't like how you talked to her, you'd be sent to Coventry for 2 days. She told people what she wanted, and she got it. But there was one thing my grandmother didn't tell anyone, and that was her age. She was ageist before we knew the word. For example, she didn't want any of us grandchildren calling her granny or grandma, even worse. And as I was the oldest grandchild, I had the choice of what to call her. I called her B. Don't ask me why. So, in hospital, doctors would come up to her and say, "Hello, Mrs. Rollo, how are you? And how old are you?" My grandmother would refuse to answer that question. Don't know what she said to them, but as you can appreciate from the trembling customer service departments, she had no trouble in refusing to disclose her age. She told me, once they know your age, they start treating you differently. I don't want people saying you're good for your age, she said. I want to be good, full stop. When my mother told me that my grandmother refused to tell people her age, I thought she was a bit unrealistic and pedantic. But, there's always a but. As I got older, I realised that people did treat older people differently. Or maybe I realised that I treated older people differently. So I started to buy into my grandmother's philosophy as I headed towards my 60th birthday. Did I have any personal evidence that people would treat me differently as I got older? Well, yes and no. But basically, I didn't want to risk it. And in the background was that niggle that I was guilty of the same sin. I treated people differently as they got older. I think the other thing that got in the way was how my body was aging. And you're not allowed to look at my body at this point. I realise that might be slightly difficult, but... I'll come back to that in a minute. I used to get really bored with the way old people would talk about their bodies when they got together. Our previous audience laughed as much as you guys. But now I'm doing it with my close friends, and it's helpful. I don't feel as alone. So, getting back to my body. So why did I choose top hat and tails as my costume? Well, partly it was to do with wearing a suit holds a multitude of sins. Men in suits at the back know this well. And the other thing is I like being in the spotlight. I like making people laugh. So you pleased me tonight. So top hat and tails would do the trick. And the white face paint? Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Probably for you. The shoes I had bought in Melbourne, and they were bloody expensive. I know they're black, but anyway. And this gave me a chance to wear them. Some of you may be thinking that that's a whole lot of contradictions going on in my head. It's true. But I think this is the human condition. We don't necessarily have things all worked out, all our thoughts and opinions being consistent. We're not a piece of policy where the analysis drives the conclusion.